Good morning, everybody. It is still morning. It's 11 a.m. on a wonderful Saturday. The sunshine is out, melting this wonderful snow. We are breaking in. We got a wonderful interview here. Different kind of interview, actually. So this is with Donna Cercone. And Donna Cercone actually has been teaching music for quite some time and developed her own method of teaching music. We also have with us a teacher at the same school, Donna Walker-Lopez. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well, Josh, and that's actually
Carol. Sorry about that. Carol, yeah. I need more coffee, right? All right. So, Carol, how long have you been teaching with Donna here this method?
Several years, Josh. I started out as a student a number of years ago, and it changed the whole way I played music, the way I looked at music, and my enjoyment of music.
Excellent. That's awesome. And that's what I love about this method, the Cercone method. Donna, thank you very much for coming in. How are you?
Thank you. I am doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, Donna, first, how long have you been teaching this method?
Over 40 years.
Over 40 years.
Yes, I developed this method because I was so frustrated. I was an organist and a pianist, and I was ready to walk away from music because you practice long hours and I wasn't getting the results.
And it's funny, so you and I have talked before, and one thing that you did say is a lot of students, when they're young, and let's be honest, most kids start to play the piano. It's just kind of what, we grew up with, so, but there's a point at which a lot of kids stop.
Yes.
And what do you think is the main contributing factor for kids stopping, just like how you wanted to stop?
They don't have the success. And if you're not really learning the language, what I finally realized is I wasn't being taught the language. I was just being taught the alphabet, the notes. And then I thought, I'm an avid reader. How would I like to spell a book? I'd stop with the first word.
Right, exactly. And I love how you said it's kind of like a grammar approach to it, where the notes, A, B, C, D, F, G, those are just the letters, those are just the alphabet, but no one actually learns the grammar of it and the whole language of it.
No. And if you take and compare a foreign language to music, the alphabet, that's the notes. But you can't stop there. You have to learn phonics if you're going to learn to speak a language. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn the words. Well, in music, the words are the chords, and guitarists know this, but pianists don't.
And I'm a avid guitar player, so yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Especially with the guitar, you learn the shapes.
Yes. And see, this is what amazed me when I started seeing shapes in piano. Because if you treat the hand as the tongue of music, and if I'm going to speak a word, I have to train my hand, a tongue, to shape the word. Mm-hmm. Well, in
sound
music,
it out.
Yes,
yeah.
And if I look at the lines and spaces and I see a shape, and I train my hand to shape it, I have one movement, not 4 or 5. And I understand what it is because I understand the word and why it's there. It's amazing. It totally changed my playing. It totally changed Carol's way of playing. She had 15 years of lessons and didn't know any of this.
Okay, I want to actually touch that real quick, Carol. So you were playing for about 15 years before you went over to Donna, correct?
Correct.
Wow. So that is a long time. And what made you kind of move over to this method?
Well, I started playing when I was in elementary school and played through college, and then kind of fell out of it, but I've always loved it so much, and I came back and I was amazed at what I learned. I started again at the beginning to see what did I miss, and it was like going into a world of Technicolor from black and white. I cannot tell you how much changed in my music.
And that's one thing that I've heard, that students who have been taking years of piano will come to you and you start them fresh from the beginning.
Yes.
And there's a method to that madness to start them from the beginning. And so, Carol, you started from the beginning when you went to Donna and just kind of learned her method as if you were a new student.
Yes, and I got so excited. Donna laughs at me because I do everything and come back the next week and said, I did all the practice you wanted me to do. Now what?
Now what?
And I swear, all of my music playing, not only is it so much more beautiful, it is so much easier to play.
Oh, that's the whole thing. It's so much easier and successful. I wanted success. I didn't want to constantly practice. I wanted to play.
And what is really success is the pure enjoyment
of music.
Of music, exactly.
That I could play a song months after I had learned it. I didn't have to go back, I forgot that. I could just sit down and play.
Now, you've had a lot of students that come to you after years of being in lessons. And you mentioned something where it's kind of like, well, how many songs do you know? And a lot of times is very little. And through your method, let me actually ask Harold for this. When it comes to it, do you just, is it much easier to remember songs going through this method so that you actually have 30, 40, 50 more songs that you can just get from your memory?
Yes, it is. Now, I have not done a lot of pure memorization of all those songs. What I use this method for is I can go back and play them, recognize those chords, know what my hand's supposed to do, and I can pretty much play them in a beautiful way. And you would go, wow, Carol, that sounds great.
Right. And that I got to say, that's one of the biggest things, like between guitar and piano, is guitar. I can just kind of look at a song. Oh, these are the chords.
Exactly.
And then I can just play the song on my guitar.
Exactly.
Piano was completely different because you'd look at the sheet music. It's just like, okay, that's an A. Okay, that's
There's your alphabet.
C. Yeah, you know, and you just kind of have to go finger, finger, finger. Okay, there's a chord.
But did you know you can stutter in piano just like you can in a language? In speaking a language?
So?
Okay, so when I watch the students playing, as I see their hands moving, I can see how their brain is thinking. So if their hand is moving back and forth, like, what's this note? What's this note? Where do I go? They're jerkingly moving forward, searching for a note, not a shape.
Not a shape.
It's stuttering.
And that's the big key where I said with the guitar, you memorize the shape of a C,
Yes.
the shape of a D,
You
the
say a
shape
C
of
chord
G.
and you know what to do.
Exactly, with all your fingers, and it's just like that. And so you have this different method, and I wanted to introduce this method because we were speaking a little early, a few days ago, about, I really like how you brought in elementary school. And you brought in, there's a certain grade on average where kids don't like learning anymore. And you told me there's a difference in the classroom.
What we
What
were
is that?
speaking about then is mega learning, learning how to learn, and we're activating the whole brain. And that is, if you look at the classrooms in first and second grade, they're very colorful. The teachers tell stories. They get to play games. You get into the third grade usually, and one of the sentences that's often said is, "You're not in kindergarten anymore. Take out a piece of paper and pencil and learn."
Sit at your desk, learn, and there's a blackboard.
And be quiet.
Right.
And it's like they shut all the avenues of learning down. That's when the learning curve goes down. And I said this to a professor one time, and he was shocked. He said, most teachers need to hear this. I said they wouldn't get it anyway, possibly. But the brain needs color. The brain needs stories, pictures, understanding patterns. And in the Cercone method, we literally color analyze our chords by a pattern that I found that goes back to Pythagoras. And it's amazing when you color analyze your music. It's amazing when you apply color to learning. I can take kids who have problems in school and find the right colors for them, and they can learn. See, we treat color as the electricity of the brain. And if you got the lights off, if you need to find something, you're going to turn the lights on. But by the third grade, we try to do the education in the dark. They can't use colored paper. Different people need different colors for different subjects. It is amazing to watch. I had a kid who was in the 7th grade. He was being passed on in the system, did not know his multiplication tables. And I had a lot of colored paper in my music studio. He was a piano student. And I said, okay, I want you to think math. And I want you to find the paper, the color you want to do your math on. I was shocked. He chose a bright pink. So I took his multiplication table cards and copied them on bright pink paper. He came back 2 weeks later and he knew his multiplication tables.
Wow.
Color. We think color is for kindergarten. Whoever said that? I said that to business people one time. I said, can you play sports without color?
You wouldn't know who's on what team.
You don't know who to throw the football to.
Right, right.
And besides, what makes it so fun as we talked is the stands are orange and blue. And the color. But in education, we take it away and we shut the brain down. So we color analyze our music. It is amazing to look at the music, same music, not colored, and see it colored. You don't even want to look at the non-colored one. And by the way, do we want black and white TV?
No, of course. We want the colors vibrant. We want beautiful colors. And
yes, they have colored pictures in the books, but the reading, the words are black and white.
Right.
And when you can find the right colored filter to read through, it's amazing what happens. And it's different for every student. You cannot make a judgment for a student because what they see and what we see is very different. It's been an amazing journey, amazing to research and experiment and help kids with education and help kids with music. And I had to save my own music and just have the success that I want now in my own music that I could not get before.
And I love that, how it's not just music, it is just learning in general.
Yes.
It is math, it is English, it is subjects that kids are expected to learn without any help.
Exactly.
Just black and white words.
Exactly. I had this one kid who could not do physics, but you gave him a bright red colored filter. He understood physics. Take it away, he couldn't do it. And my theory is the right frequency for the particular subject creates a brain connection. After a while, you don't need it. But during that time when the connection is being made, you need it.
While you're learning, while you're in the learning process.
Then what does that do for self-image? I had a boy come to me who was in the 7th grade, should have been in 9th. And his tutor brought him to me, and we tested him with colored filters for reading. Any color worked. I was surprised. But when we found the color that was fantastic, that worked for him really well, he went back to school, read for the teachers. The teachers immediately passed him on a grade. What did we do for his self-image?
Right, exactly.
And that's what I care about, because we are geniuses, but it's been shut down.
It has.
And I don't like that.
I completely, absolutely agree. We're going to get a little bit more into the Cercone music method here. That's not just for music. It is about learning and getting our brains going. So we will be right back on K4CO Radio. And we are back on K4CO Radio with Donna Cercone, who actually came up with Cercone music method that we're discussing. We also have another teacher that teaches this method with Donna, Carol Walker-Lopez. Thanks again for joining us, and really absolutely love it. One great thing that I took from this and why I really love having this interview and teaming up is that it's not just about music. It is about getting your creative brain back working with your logical brain. Everybody talks about left brain and right brain. And as you said earlier, 3rd grade, once all the color goes away, you have white walls, you have a chalkboard, you have an alphabet above it, and you got desks and a piece of paper and a pencil. your brain just shuts down.
Yes.
And I remember when I was in college, I had a real difficult time learning certain subjects, and I took this class where that's when the highlighters came out. Different color highlighters they wanted me to use. And not just highlighting a entire sentence or paragraph, but certain words at a time to make a sentence for me. And it kind of reminds me of this particular method and how you teach music. So if you could kind of expand on that, how you bring color back into the learning method. I know you use different filters.
We use the filters for reading, and once in a while, a student has a type of visual problem where he cannot really look at the music because the white background hurts the eyes. And scientists have found that black and white is hard on the brain. Mm-hmm. And yet that's all of our printing in school. I've had to take colored filters and put it over the music so that the student could learn easier. And after a while, they don't need it. Again, when we create the connection in the brain, they don't need it. But what's fascinating about color, I had a gentleman who was, his wife came in for lessons, and she heard about the color and our Hearts of Peace CD, which is music at 60 beats per minute, which really affects the brain and learning.
The entire CD is at 60 beats per minute.
Yes.
Why is that?
Dr. Georgi Lazana from Bulgaria discovered that music at 60 beats per minute puts the brain waves into alpha, not beta. And that helps learning. We learn more in alpha. You know, when we go into nature, we relax. Mm-hmm. Alpha brainwaves. Nature affects us that way. So he started experimenting with music at 60. So when I composed the music for Hearts of Peace CD, which I learned to compose because of the Cercone method, I decided to make a whole CD at 60. And so he took this music at 60 beats per minute, and he found the right colored filter for him to read. He finally was able to get his bachelor's, and he went back for his master's. He could not do it before without the color and the music. He got a better job, changed his whole life. And that's what I like. I like success.
And I love the aspect of color coming into it. Now, are there certain colors that are for certain things, or is it all up to the person's brain?
In general, outside wall colors, if you take classrooms, the learning colors are on the cool spectrum from the yellows, greens, blues, purples, roses. When you take the reds, oranges, and bright yellows, those are physical activity colors. Now, what's interesting, many of the schools will have their classrooms done in oranges and activity colors, and then they expect the kids to sit quiet. The kids can't. Mm-hmm. They're responding to the energy of the color. If you want the kids to sit quiet, put them in a blue room, green room, purple room, rose room, and they can study. Put red in the cafeteria or the gymnasium. Mm-hmm. Where they have physical activity. And many times in our homes, we also give ourselves white walls. Why? Well, someday I might want to sell the house. Well, What about living in the house? Mm-hmm. You're living in it now. Does that room, does that home support what you want to do? So we don't use color to support what we want to do. Many times the color prevents our creativity from opening up, prevents us from getting more done because it's not supporting us, it's taking away.
And so you think actually the color is what creates the bridge between learning in the left side and the right side of the brain.
Yes, definitely. I one time went to Hamilton Junior High. A principal asked me to come in and possibly work with some of the students. And in our conversation with the principal, he happened to just mention he was really proud of how the kids were acting on the stairway. Mm-hmm. And the sentence wasn't really congruent with our conversation at that time, so I sort of put it in the back of my head. After our conversation, we walked upstairs, and as we were down the corridor, I felt my body tensing I was speaking with him, but I felt my body tensing, and I go, why am I tensing? I looked around, the entire corridor and lockers were orange, which is not a learning color for most people, especially in general on the walls. We walked into the classroom, and all I can say, it was a sick avocado green.
Ooh.
And I went, how do they expect the students to learn here? Well, then we came out of the classroom, we walked down this long corridor of orange, and we got into the stairway, and I felt my body go, oh. And I looked, the stairway was blue. Blue is a relaxing color. No wonder the kids were quiet on the stairway. They had so much tension in their bodies from the wrong colors in the hallway and the classroom. Their body absolutely relaxed on the stairway.
Kind of makes me think why a lot of office buildings are that taupe and people hate it. And they just want to get out of there, right?
Well, when you walked into our music studio, what did you feel?
It was just there was colors everywhere. I felt good. I felt relaxed. I felt, I don't know. I enjoyed being there.
Those are purposely, very carefully chosen colors. The colors are deep plums and teals and a little bit of gold, but those are learning colors. Mm-hmm. I can work in those colors all day long and not get tired. But if I had to work on gray carpeting and white walls, oh God, couldn't do it.
Just couldn't do it at all.
Wouldn't want to. Let me out of here.
And so, Carol, when you came in and she started you from the very beginning with all of these colors, you said things just kind of started making sense, whereas they didn't before. Is that a good depiction of that?
I would say that is quite true. I think what really happened was I started noticing so much more. So combining learning about the chords and then coloring them, it accelerated all my learning, and I saw the parts of the song, and I was able to play them in a relaxed manner versus always worrying about, am I technically playing this right? Is it fast enough? I was able to relax into the music, and I really leapfrogged forward, I believe.
So it really accelerated what you had already been taught, and you just kind of restarted it, and it just pushed you even further.
And another interesting thing about color is it gets you into the mind of the composer.
Okay, you're going to need to kind of elaborate on that right there. I want to get into the mind of, Beethoven.
Exactly. Okay. Music as a language has to have nouns and verbs, just like any other language.
Okay.
And if you don't have a noun and a verb on the first page, you're going to have a run-on sentence in music. And sometimes I've seen that.
So what would a noun and a verb be musically?
The 1 chord would be the noun, and the 5 chord would be the verb.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we color our 1 chord yellow, because that's home. And verb is action, so that's red. Beethoven loves yellow and red. Oh. Now, his music, those are the 2 most powerful chords there are. And Beethoven's music is passionate, powerful many times, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, yellow and red, you want power, use the power chords.
That is very interesting.
And it's really, now Beethoven in one of his sonatas had a chord progression that used various colors. I forget if there were greens and purples or whatever, but I loved that chord progression. So when I was composing the Hearts of Peace CD music, I thought, well, if Beethoven used that chord progression, can't I? So I took the same chord progression and created my own music.
And when it comes to writing, I actually want to ask Carol about this. Do you write your own music?
I do not.
Just kind of play? Okay.
I haven't gotten into... Okay, yes. Donna says there's time.
Right.
I find that I'm still exploring how to take all this knowledge and use it to make the music have texture and feeling and just express. So I really used all this to find an incredible beauty in a lot of music that just was kind of like, oh, okay, before. And now it's like, I can't wait to play it. And what's it telling me? What can I help you feel, Josh, when I play it? Mm-hmm. And that's where the enjoyment and the deep learning has come from.
And that brings up another thing. I had to research why here in the States we were not getting the sound in piano that I heard in my head. And I finally found the Russian technical regimen for piano, which is based on total relaxation.
And yeah, I did want to kind of get into that because I remember you saying, I can even remember as a kid when I was playing piano, it was just you push down on the keys. That's what you do. And so this is what you're getting into, correct?
Oh, it totally changes the sound. It's so relaxed playing. You can get beauty that's literally will get people to stop talking.
You told me a lot of people is like put an apple or an orange under their wrist.
The first lesson you had puts an apple and orange under your wrist, and what happens? The wrist locks, and when the wrist
it's tight.
locks, you have no choice but to strike the keys. Mm-hmm. And what we train the student to do is to play from weight and relaxation. Totally changes the sound to the point you'll hear it at the concert. It's amazing. The tones you can get from the sound and the feeling. Mm-hmm. And now I'm able to find, I had to totally change my technique. I cried. I was so frustrated. I go, wouldn't somebody have taught me something? I had to learn how to read music like a book. Then I had to change my technique because I was trained to play with hold your fingers high and strike each keys.
Right.
Well, you don't get speed with that. You don't get beauty with that. You get tension, strident sound. That's not music.
And relaying that actually to myself, I do a lot of guitar finger picking. Mm-hmm. And finger picking, if your hands are just kind of tightened up and you're just kind of hitting the strings instead of relaxing your hand and just letting it smoothly.
And we were trained the little finger has to play on the tip. That's wrong hand position. When you work with us, we'll train you to relax the hand and totally get a beautiful sound. Oh my, and powerful. When you want to be powerful, you can get all the power you want, but it's never a strike. It's not harsh.
And it's
never
all
harsh.
in being relaxed.
Can you do anything well with tension?
I'm thinking probably not. I'm thinking.
And when I read that the Russian technique is based on total relaxation, it was the biggest duh moment of my life. I went, well, of course. Mm-hmm. What can you do well with tension? Not one thing.
Wow. I really like that. We're going to take another little quick break here, and we will be right back. Once again, we are speaking with Donna Cercone with Cercone Music Method. We're also joined by fellow teacher Carol Walker-Lopez. We will be right back on K4CO Radio. All right, we are back with Donna Cercone and Donna Cercone Music Method. And we're also speaking with Carol Walker-Lopez, another teacher of this method. And I wanted to stress the greatest thing about this is you are a music teacher, but it's far more than music. It is about learning.
My first teaching was junior high. I was in a private school, and I taught 45 seventh graders in a self-contained classroom. I taught every subject. And what I wanted to know is the kids come in seventh grade with bored faces, and I don't like boredom.
Well, yeah, they're in school. Exactly.
And I based all the rules in the classroom on fairness and respect. And then I started experimenting in my first year of teaching with what would make learning fun. What would make them, because for me, learning is the most fun thing in the world. If I'm not learning something, I'm bored.
I agree.
And how could I open the door for these kids? Now, I had a kid who had flunked, and I was a tough grader. C was the average. If you just did C's, you got average work, you got C's. If you wanted A's, you had to do extra. Mm-hmm. This kid got an A on a test. You should have seen his face. He looked up at me and he goes, I never got an A before. said, I know. All the negative self-image was shattering. And so I experimented with honor rolls, ability honor roll. I experimented with all the different things. And at the end of the year, the 7th grade boys came to me and said, we don't want school to end.
That's powerful right there, because I was all ready for summer.
Exactly. And then I taught in high school, and I taught in Southside Chicago. I worked with some gang leaders here in Denver, experimenting with what opens the brain. And one time with some gang leaders here in Denver, they were brought to my music studio to see if I could help them with learning. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I do is we take a magic carpet ride to Music Land, or the Land of Learning.
I love that song, too.
To open up and to connect the right and left brain. Mm-hmm. And I am giving this story to warlord gang leaders here in Denver. And I thought, Donna, you got to find out if this is going to work or not. Taking these gang leaders on a imaginary magic carpet ride to the Land of Learning. So I just went ahead and said, you might think I'm weird. And I said, and I am. But this is what we're going to do.
I don't trust people who aren't weird.
And by the time I got done with the story and showed them how their brain works, this one boy stood up and he goes, you're the first teacher that makes any sense. They got excited about learning. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like, the excitement about learning.
And you can't get that excitement without using everything in your brain to your full potential.
Exactly.
And color is a huge part of it.
We don't get excited when things don't work. Mm-hmm. But when you can remember and you can learn, you can realize, hey, I'm smart. I can do this. That's excitement.
And I bet it's wonderful just when you're teaching people just about music, but they actually put that towards other aspects of their lives, other types of learning, other things that they're doing, and utilize the tools that you give them for that. Mm-hmm. Piano is wonderful, but it's kind of like that's what you're going to use as the highlight, but this gives people the tools in other areas. And so you have done a lot of tutoring and class in school. Do you still tutor and help?
Not so much, because many times as we tutor, the people don't apply the tools.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And if you're not going to use what we're showing you, for example, when a child comes home from school, they're brain dead.
They're overworked. Their brain is just done.
They've been in school for 6-7 hours reading black and white words, even though they had colored pictures, mm-hmm. and many times writing on white paper with pencils.
Mm-hmm. And what do your parents say? Go do your homework.
Exactly. Now, the first thing the brain needs to do is come home, raid the fridge.
I like that. All right.
And drink some water. Why? The brain has to have food and water. Mm-hmm. The next thing the brain needs is color and music. So if they're taking music lessons, do 10 minutes of piano while they're looking at colored music that we use in our method, mm-hmm. and they've rested the brain. If they follow this technique, their homework gets done far faster. They get better test scores, and they're done. They don't have to spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a night on homework when they already spent 4, 5, 6 hours in school.
Right.
Now, if you add Hearts of Peace music to that and say, okay, you've been in school all this time, don't just sit down and do your homework. Create the environment. One of the things we in America particularly have done is we're not cognizant of environment. That's not important. That's just a pretty plant. That's not important. The color is important. You don't need that. Just sit down and do this. Mm-hmm. Environment is critical. If a plant doesn't have the right environment, it dies.
Right.
And we don't realize that we humans need an environment. And color and music and safety provides that environment. If it's not safe, the brain's going to shut down. If the brain perceives something as ugly, it's going to shut down. Mm-hmm. And so what we do in the studio, and we try to teach the parents to provide the environment. Where are the kids doing the homework? If you say to the kid, go practice your piano, instead of go play the piano.
Mm-hmm. Big difference there.
Yes. And where is the piano? Is it in a dark corner?
Right.
You know, the environment is critical. Offices, businesses are not cognizant of environment and how it affects learning. It's amazing. And I've heard stories, and I forget what some of them are, but when they, in manufacturing companies, changed the color of some of the places, productivity went up.
Right. Because it's a better environment.
Better environment. We need to be cognizant of the environment we provide ourselves. Is everything white? Today's colors are often white, gray, and beige. Well, that's what's modern. What did you do to the brain?
You just dumbed it down.
Yes, yes. Who said we have to be modern? What supports the person?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to feel in your home, in your classroom, wherever? Environment is critical.
And it's funny, too, how music is so critical. I remember watching this documentary where they were taking these people who have memory issues, from Alzheimer's to dementia to everything, where they don't recognize their own family members.
But music.
But they were giving them these little iPods, because this was an older documentary, and they remembered lyrics.
Yes.
They remembered songs, and they loved it. They danced to it. And it's like that they remembered, because it's so much a part of our brain. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just as color, I think, is as well. Mm-hmm. Color, music, everything you see, everything you hear, everything you smell, everything just really opens up that brain. Mm-hmm. Right there.
And if you compared a plant, you take sunlight away,
it's
gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sunlight has the full spectrum of color.
Right.
And if you take the classrooms, how are they decorated? If you take your business offices, I decorated a couple of doctors' offices one time. And when I walked in, this one doctor said she didn't like to be at work at all, and her patients weren't listening to her. And I walked into her office, and I went,
No wonder.
Think I would be. It was. I like chartreuse as a lime green, but this was a sick lime green. Mm. It was like, oh my God. And so I looked at her and I said, I think I'd be sick just coming in here. And so she gave me her credit card, went on a trip, and I decorated her office. When she came back, she couldn't believe it. She loved to work there. And she said the amazing thing was the patients listened to her and took their medication. And they didn't do it in the other office. Wasn't that interesting?
Just changing the environment around a little bit.
Just changing the environment. And they were happier coming into that office and looking around going, oh, this is so beautiful. You see, beauty opens the brain. Ugliness shuts it down.
I love that quote. I'm going to steal that quote.
Okay.
That's okay.
You can take it. You can have it. Okay.
Did want to kind of get into how people can find you. Now, you do have a website, cerconemusic.com, and that's CERCONE music.com.
Yes.
You are on social media as well, on Facebook, correct? Okay.
And possibly as Cercone Learning. So if they can't find us as Cercone Music, check Cercone Learning.
I do show, it's actually under Cercone Learning Music Method on your Facebook right there. And then you have your studio at 3000 South Jamaica Court in Aurora.
Yes.
And that's where I was. And it's, a wonderful, a wonderful studio. I absolutely loved it. I was actually going to sit down and play a little bit of piano, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
But I didn't even get a chance to show you that we can teach all the keys on the piano in 5 minutes or less.
And you can actually teach people, not face to face. You've actually taught people in
Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, UK, Canada.
So you're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That is just awesome. And I bet during the whole pandemic and stuff like that, it kind of accelerated that? Is that something that
Say
helped
that
the
again?
pandemic? The
Didn't bother.
COVID didn't bother
We
it
just
at all?
taught on Zoom.
Gotcha. And
make
is
any
that
difference.
usually how you teach Zoom?
If anybody
in other
doesn't come
countries?
to the studio, it's Zoom, Skype.
So you even teach locally through Zoom and Skype?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, tell us about, you have a concert coming up.
My own concert.
Your
yes.
own concert, exactly. Tell us a little bit about that for our listeners.
My own concert is coming up on April 7th. I haven't ever done a concert, and I decided to do one not to show my virtuosity. I don't care about that. I don't want to show that off. I want to show the power, the emotions of music. How music can so talk for us when we can't talk. Sometimes our emotions are so deep you cannot find words.
Right.
But how music, we can go right to the heart. And that's what I'm going to play all styles of music: ragtime, country, blues, classical, semi-classical, and just show the different emotions of music. That's my goal.
Sometimes you can actually play the exact same song
Yes.
in a different method, and it's something completely different to the listener.
And one of the songs I'm going to be playing is The Rose, The Wild Rose. And if you hear it on YouTube, it's like, okay, fine. What's for dinner tonight? It's nice, but what's for dinner? And that's not what I want. You sink into the chord and people go, oh, and they're there. They're with you in the music. See, it's up to the performer to take the people with them into the music. And sometimes when you go that deep, like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, you can't talk afterwards. You went that deep into the music. And that's what I love to do.
And you really don't have those types of composers anymore.
Well, that's one of the things that just pushed me over the edge. As I was developing this method, I had a lot of questions haunting me. Number one is, why did so many people take lessons for years and can't play? I mean, that haunted me. If we had that many people taking reading lessons,
And then couldn't read.
we know there's a problem.
Exactly.
And they spent 7, 8 more years. Oh, yeah, I took lessons for 7 years and can't play. That's not success.
Not at all.
That drove me. And then the other question, if you look at the number of people on the planet today, just in America, versus 1850, millions more.
Oh, yes.
How many more music schools are there in America now than there were in 1850? Now, every college has a music school.
You would hope so.
So,
unless they're getting rid of those, too.
Yeah. So, how many colleges do we have in the United States now versus the 1850s?
Oh, especially today. It's
Where
insane.
are the composers? You see, as I see it, if I have my facts correct, there were two composers, Stravinsky and Schoenberg, if I have this correct, that thought all the music had been written that could be written. And so they changed it to an atonal music, which broke all the rules of the traditional music as we knew from the composers. The people didn't like it then, and a lot of them don't like it now. But what I think happened is the colleges got on the bandwagon and started teaching music this way. And the only way you can basically play that music is note by note. And we lost the art and science of learning and teaching music as the composers learned. That's why there were so many composers back then, because they learned the language.
Yeah, they weren't doing it note by note.
No. And you can't write a book if you just can spell.
Very true. I like that.
So if you learned, anybody that knows English can write a book if they want to. So if I know music, I can write a song. And in that time, they knew music, the language of music, so they could write songs. But where are the composers today? We have good ones, but not percentage.
Percentage-wise, it's way down.
Way down.
Right.
And that bothers me.
I as well.
Lack of success always bothers me.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you again very much for coming in. It's been such a pleasure. Cercone Music Method is much more than learning piano. It is a way to think, a way to exercise your brain. And shown in here, and Carol has even said that, you've taken lessons for 15 years, and then you just went to this method, and the amount of progress was just absolutely insane. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And you really love teaching Donna's method?
I do. It brings me such joy and pleasure, and I've always loved helping others to learn, and just to share my love of music and encourage theirs makes my day.
Definitely. And I think more color the world needs, no matter what. I've worked in those.
Color my world. Right?
Exactly. Color my world. That's why everybody escapes to the mountains and escapes to nature, is because of the color and because of the beauty of it. Who wants to sit inside, especially in a taupe office, that white office that just has no wonderful desire.
Exactly.
To learn. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Of course. We're going to be interviewing you often, too, because I really love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And whether you are, it's for your kid or yourself. I mean, you teach.
We take all ages. We go from 6 to 96.
Okay. After 96, no.
Yeah, after 96, we'll cut it there.
It's like, no, you missed the boat.
But a lot of people, like my sister took music lessons after she retired. She has 100 songs in repertoire.
Wow.
And to sit down, she goes and sits down and she plays. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing?
And just loves it.
Yes.
Exactly. And we need more music in the world.
And her brain is active.
And that's the key thing, is really connecting that right and left side and creating an environment for your brain to learn much more efficiently.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you again very much. It's been such an honor. And
thank you.
Once again, you can contact them. The website is cerconemusic.com. That is CERCONE music.com. We also have a Facebook page, Cercone Learning Music Method. And you're at 3000 South Jamaica Court in Aurora. And phone number, is this the best phone number? 303-552-0398.
Yes.
That is it. Excellent. Well, once again, 303-552-0398. The Donna Cercone Music Method. Definitely check it out. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
Very much.
Everybody take care. Have a wonderful Saturday. And just get ready for a lot of great music coming up.